ripoffs. In the beginning, their own hands. In other words, they make ripoffs.
That is not Fall Guys. That is Tumble Men. That is not Fall Guys. That is Tumble Men. That is Fumble Gents.
History is written by the victors. This is an adage commonly attributed to Winston Churchill, although it has most likely been around since history itself. While the adage is referring to the victors of a war, it can also be applied to a different kind of war, one much closer to home, the war of corporate
Quality
branding. Lego wasn't the first toy building brick, Oreo isn't the first chocolate cream cookie, and Stumble Guys isn't the first battle royale with Mario Party inspired minigames. But they are the ones we know and buy today. But before Stumble Guys, there was another. For every ripoff that manages to overtake those before it, there are actually thousands that try and fail miserably. Normally, ripoffs of something never even get a fraction of the success. But Stumble Guys goes on to surpass the original. But how? How did Stumble Guys go from just another ripoff of Fall Guys to a globally known game, partnering with giant companies like Hot Wheels, the NFL, Rabbids, Nerf, Barbie, Monopoly, SpongeBob, and Mr. Beast? But to get to the bottom of Stumble Guys' success, SpongeBob, and talk about the game that it spawned from. Of Stumble Guys' success, we first have to talk about the game that it spawned from. The year 2020 was seeing a decline in the Battle Royale subgenre that came to prevalence by the end of the 2010s. Games like Fortnite, while still going strong, was steadily losing players as the mystique of Chapter 2 was wearing off. If you were to ask a random passerby about the state of the genre, the average person would probably claim that Battle Royale was dying. But in August of that year, Fall Guys would become the newest and most refreshing take on the genre, taking its Mario Party and Wipeout-inspired mini-games and connecting them with the underlying thread of Battle Royale. It took two previously successful formulas and blended them together in a way that felt fresh. And more importantly, in a way that felt fresh to the Twitch livestream audience. Fall Guys was released with a very unusual strategy. Seeing the rise in viral games, especially during the pandemic, Mediatonic released Fall Guys by giving free download keys to streamers, not just to play the game themselves, but to also
Why have I been quiet this entire time? Like, supposed to be a reaction chat. I'm just
give download keys to their chat. This instilled a ton of interest in the game early on, not just by building a viewer base for the game, but by giving it an active player base before it even fully launched.
Before it went to the Epic Games.
And once the floodgates opened, all hell broke loose. The rise of Fall Guys can best be described as a tidal wave. As much like the impact of a tsunami, it all comes at once. Fall Guys was quickly averaging over 100,000 active users.
Bringing up TF2 numbers, jeez.
And for a game that was just launched, that was unprecedented. Streamers would hop on the game with other streamers, creating these collaborations that were never possible up to this point. But all the success didn't come without a catch. With such rapid growth, the game would see an unpredictable rise of cheaters. In each and every match, it would be common for someone to turn on cheats and easily win the game. This was only made worse by the game's winning incentive. After winning the game, you would get a crown, which the player can spend on different cosmetic outfits. This made the prospect of winning every game possible very appealing to cheaters. This cheating problem would make the game virtually unplayable, as just one cheater in a lobby can spoil the experience for 59 other players. And even in the this cheating problem would make the game virtually unplayable, as just one cheater in a lobby can spoil the experience for 59 other players. And even in the rare case when there wasn't cheaters in the lobby, once you play the game long enough, you get used to the 24 different minigames. You begin to detest the group minigames for being random chance, while memes like going after yellow team helps bring the community together. Random chance, while memes like going after
someone who gives off strong yellow team energy. Yo, Alex just said he would delete the yellow team if we can get 1 million retweets. Why
Yellow
do you hate
Team
yellow
helps
so
bring the
much?
community together. It also made being a member of the Yellow Team a death sentence. Imagine losing 1/3 of the games you played just by randomly being assigned to this team. And new players would have a harder time getting into it if they were late to the party. When the game finally did get a notable update, over 2 months after launch, Season 2 was underwhelming at best. While the update finally started to deal with the hacking problem, it didn't do as well in terms of adding new content. Introducing 4 new mini-games and a 5th one halfway through the season, it just wasn't enough to keep people playing. At its core, despite such rapid success,
Hey man, problem is they made a multiplayer game, so more people wanna play it.
the Fall Guys team didn't really capitalize on it, and they weren't really able to with the short amount of time they had. The wave died down.
And
Comparing
a new
Fall
one.
Guys to Fortnite, after it rose to relevancy, it maintained its platform through the use of consistent updates. Every 2 weeks, there would be a new map change, or item, or weapon, and that kept people playing. With Fall Guys, what you saw was what you got. And I don't think I even need to mention that, at the peak of its success,
Among
Fall Guys
Us.
was usurped by another stream-friendly social game that would
Among
reach new
Us.
heights. And in the middle of the
A very
pandemic,
sussy
Among
game.
Us was just the better social game. The most relevant Fall Guys has been since its heyday was nearly 2 full years later, in June of 2022, when the game went free to play. And it's funny that I chose to compare Fall Guys to Fortnite earlier, as this happened after Epic Games went on to buy their developers, Mediatonic, in March of 2020.
I bet Epic Games is filming from the motor the mistake they just did, because I have never seen that Fall Guys video in 2025.
But while Fall Guys was on its perpetual fall, it would be a few years until another game came along to
Maybe
fully
Stumble Guys.
replace it. Stumble Guys had already been released as early as September 2020 on the Google Play Store, but it wouldn't see worldwide appeal until early 2022, before ultimately overtaking Fall Guys once and for all by the end of the
Honestly, I wouldn't let that happen.
year.
People
When a game gets
me-
popular, one of 2 things happens in the mobile game market. The game either gets a mobile release, or opportunistic mobile game developers take making it into their own hands. In other
should put
words,
Loki
they
Craft
make
there.
rip-offs. In the beginning, their own hands. In other words, they make rip-offs.
That is not Fall Guys. That is Tumble Man. That is no Fall Guys. That is Tumble Man. That is Fumble Gents. That is Fell Off Gentleman. That is not Fall Guys.
Rip-offs. In the beginning, Stumble Guys was just one of many Fall Guys rip-offs. Alongside titles like Run Guys,
Run
Guys Are
Guys.
Falling, Fall
Guys are falling.
alongside titles like Run Guys,
Guys are falling.
Guys Are Falling,
Guys are falling. 79 ratings. 79 people rated this. Rated a game about men falling down. You know, some people are just gay. You can just admit it, man.
Fall.io, Run Royale 3D, Soda Guys, and Fall Down Challenge. But there were a number
I
of
can't-
factors that led to Stumble Guys
Wow.
becoming the de facto Fall Guys alternative. Firstly, Fall Guys didn't have a mobile port.
Yeah,
In
now
2020,
it does,
Chinese
but-
publisher Billy
No one's playing the mobile pod, let's be honest.
Billy gained the rights to a mobile release, but that never came to fruition. I'm sure Epic Games would have published one if it weren't for its lawsuit with Apple, kneecapping their
Yeah.
reach and killing their prospects of making a port. This already gave Stumble Guys a leg up, as it wasn't competing with the original game, at least not at first.
Yeah.
You might not know this, but mobile games are the silent majority of people who play games. Everyone has a smartphone, after all. Looking at the biggest game of all time, 41% of Minecraft's yearly revenue comes from mobile devices, with the other 59% being split between the Java version, PC's Bedrock
Every
Edition,
version.
and consoles.
Every
Basically,
Java.
once Stumble Guys was competing with other rip-offs, it had the entire mobile market to itself. It already won. Compared to the rip-offs, it was the most featured game. with its own battle
I think
pass,
that was quality when compared to them.
numerous different mini games, a party system, and cosmetics all from the get-go. And while it had pay-to-win abilities like punching locked away in the paid battle pass, the game being pay-to-win also made them a ton of money. And while you can criticize the shameless implementation of these paid mechanics, many find it a lot easier to just make fun of them. Specifically, YouTubers.
Yeah.
Paying to attain and abuse these pay-to-win aspects of the game was good content, but it also gave Stumble Guys a lot of attention. Basically, it's free promotion. Just like how Fall Guys used Twitch culture to get off the ground, Stumble Guys had support from YouTubers making videos on it, whether it's because they wanted to, or for monetary gain. Stumble Guys would begin working with YouTubers through direct
I'm
sponsorships,
still
creator
shocked that Mr. Beast actually went with them.
codes, or their Stumble Partner program, taking and
Stumble
expanding the
Partner.
growth method.
Hey man, Stumble Guys, I made a video about your game. You can give me a Stumble Partner anytime
Stumble
you want,
Guys also
man.
went free to play on Steam on April 1st of 2022,
And
at
I
a time
still
when Fall
have
Guys
it.
still costed $20, giving yet another edge to the up-and-comer. Even though Fall Guys had more levels and variety, the
Yeah.
accessibility of Stumble Guys was just unmatched. By the end of the year, Fall Guys was at its lowest point, its Steam numbers flatlining to about 5,000 after Epic Games pulled it out and confined it to the Epic Games launcher. Meanwhile, Stumble Guys was at its most explosive period yet.
L mobile games. Dog.
And
Stumble
after
Guys
it was already
being
in the
Subway
public
Surfers is
consciousness,
insane.
that's when the collab started. The first collaboration was with Hot Wheels, starting on December 15th, 2022, and they would only get crazier from there. The NFL, Rabbids, Nerf, Barbie, Mr. Beast, and Monopoly collaborations would occur in 2023, a new collaboration coming with each and every little update. Now, Fall Guys itself is
They're like
no
kidding,
stranger to
huh?
collaborations. Cuphead, Sonic, Invincible, Encanto, those are some pretty big names.
Disney?
I guess that's
Yeah, Fall Guys. Wait,
one good. Sonic, Invincible, Encanto,
I
those
would
are some
just
pretty
Stumble
big
Guys said
names. I guess that's one good thing about the Epic Games bio. They've even
Yeah.
partnered with Among Us, the game that accidentally stole their thunder in the first place, and SpongeBob, who has also colluded with the enemy. This man must
Yeah.
be stopped. But at the
SpongeBob
same
collabs with anyone. I saw him in freaking Valhalla. Like, they're really
time,
desperate.
Fall Guys was also seeing the least amount of new content in years, going from November of 2022 all the way to May the next year before receiving a single update. Stumble Guys used Fortnite's collaboration strategy to eventually overtake Fall Guys, which all comes together in a strange way. In
Wow.
2017, Epic Games beat PUBG with its constant updates and stayed ahead with its collaborations. And over
Huh.
5 years later, Stumble Guys would use those same techniques to overtake Fall Guys,
So
leaving it in
karma.
the same position as PUBG all those years ago. Fall Guys was finally dead.
It
And
has-
Stumble Guys
I guess you could
would
say
come
the guys fell.